I mean, one of the passengers, Anthony Herford, said that he described it as a brutal crash, and that 1 minute they were travelling about 40 to 50 miles per hour, and then at a blink of an eye, it was just nothing. I mean, what's so scary about this is that apparently the train driver was at the top of the hill and could not stop. And he rushed into the carriage shouting, "Brace, brace," at the passengers, and just had to cling on like the rest of them.
Now, a man has died following a low-speed rail collision in Wales. 15 more have been taken to hospital with injuries. 2 passenger trains crashed while travelling between Shrewsbury and Machynlleth shortly before 7:30 last night. The Transport Secretary, Louise Hay, has thanked emergency services for their quick response, saying she's incredibly sorry about the incident. Nick Millington from Transport for Wales spoke to reporters earlier.
Overnight, the emergency service have done a great job responding here, and we're very grateful for everything that they've done. We're now in the process of investigating what's happened. This is a multi-agency investigation.
Reporter Liz Perkins joined me from Wales now. Hi, Liz.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So what are the reasons being suggested for why this incident occurred?
I have to say it sounded absolutely terrifying to be on these trains. I mean, one of the passengers, Anthony Herford, said that he described it as a brutal crash, and that 1 minute they were travelling about 40 to 50 miles per hour, and then at a blink of an eye, it was just nothing. I mean, what's so scary about this is that apparently the train driver was at the top of the hill and could not stop. And he rushed into the carriage shouting, "Brace, brace," at the passengers, and just had to cling on like the rest of them as this train collided with the other service. I mean, obviously one was going towards Machynlleth and the other was going towards Shrewsbury. I mean, it's not something that you would expect. I mean, these trains don't usually travel that fast. And it's just very, very shocking and very, very sad for the family of the man who was killed.
And there was a press conference in the last hour. What are the authorities now saying?
I mean, obviously they're looking into what's happening right now. I mean, clearly, it's having an impact on train services throughout the area as well. I mean, the response was very quick, and the First Minister of Wales, Eluned Morgan, has been full of praise for the action of the emergency services in the wake of that. I mean, one person apparently suffered a suspected heart attack and had to be, flown out of the scene. So it's just, you can't imagine what it was like. I mean, obviously the area was plunged into darkness. It was night, and that must have been a huge challenge for all of those involved.
Indeed. Well, Liz Perkins, journalist reporting on the train crash from Wales. Thank you, and we'll bring you more updates on that today. Now,
a man has died and 15 people have been taken to hospital after 2 trains collided in rural Wales. The 2 trains crashed into each other at a slow speed on a single track line in Montgomeryshire, mid-Wales, at around 7:30 last night. National Rail said the operational incident meant lines were closed and trains may be cancelled or revised. Police said the 15 people still in hospital do not have life-threatening injuries. Let's speak now to the Independent's travel correspondent, Simon Calder. Morning, Simon.
Good morning.
This is quite unusual, isn't it? 2 trains crashing into each other?
It's very unusual, and there will be, of course, an immediate investigation into what went wrong. Rail is extremely safe, and this was a tragic incident. Anybody to lose their life is very, very rare, as well, of course, as being extremely sad. The last fatality we saw was actually in the Carmont crash. It was a derailment 4 years ago in Scotland, in which the train driver, the conductor, and 1 passenger died. Before that, you have to go back to 2007. So rail is extremely safe, but clearly something went very wrong here. We don't know, of course, what the exact cause was. We know where it took place, which was in a place called Llanbryn Mawr, which is between Machynlleth and Shrewsbury on the Mid-Wales line. And there were 2 trains apparently at a passing loop. It's a single track line, and clearly something went very badly wrong. Looking at some of the reports from the passengers, it appears that there may have been a lack of adhesion of one of the trains simply sliding. We have seen that before, actually 3 years ago this month at Salisbury. There was a collision between two trains. Fortunately, nobody died in that, but awful to contemplate something like this happening on a railway which is aiming at absolutely zero fatalities.
And because I know you'll know these things, there are a couple of questions really, which is how common are these single track lines, and what kind of speed restrictions are there? These trains were travelling at a slow speed.
Yes, so in Wales in particular, single track lines are very frequent. They were either built like that, or in some cases they've been taken down from 2 tracks to 1. There are passing places, very often at stations, often at other places. And the interesting thing is that very soon after this accident, which happened at 7:25 last night, the authorities put out a statement saying that it had happened at low speed. Clearly, the fact that there's been a fatality means that the collision was really very serious indeed, and there will be that they will be looking at the adhesion on the rails. Was one train simply unable to stop, as sometimes happens? And if so, what was the cause of that? What treatment had the rails been given, and so on? The chances of it being a human error are very, very low. There are all kinds of electronic systems as well, especially on single track lines, to try to make sure that this doesn't happen. And so it's a matter of waiting for the investigation. Meanwhile, the Transport Secretary, Louise Haigh, has put out on X, "My thoughts are with those involved in the train crash in Powys last night. I'd like to thank emergency services at the scene and will remain in close contact with Network Rail and the Welsh Government for further updates." So a terrible tragedy, thankfully very, very rare.
Simon, thank you for talking to us. That is the Independent's travel correspondent, Simon Calder. If you just turned on the radio, we're just talking about this crash that happened in Mid Wales last night. 2 trains crashed into each other, slow speed on a single track line. And a man has died and 15 people are in hospital.